and welcome to today's Success Sprint, exclusively for our top members of Success website. Thank you so much for jumping on the call today. This is all about you guys, okay? The next 30 minutes is dedicated to helping you out, whether it's showing you how to use something within the platform, teaching you how to make adjustments, make changes, implement strategies, and also to get your ideas, to get your feedback, because we got a lot of ideas here, and we're constantly looking for things to develop and for more ways to help our members. So what I'm going to do right off the top is I'm going to ask you to give me a little bit of a proof that you guys are alive and well, and ready to participate. So I'm going to ask that you put into the chat, what are some of the things that you wish, if I could like wave my magic wand and either, let's say, update your website so it's got a whole new look, or create some action plans for you that don't just go on for 14 days, but go on for a longer period of time. Or maybe create a certain type of campaign that is going to work better for you. I mean, those are just some basic ideas that I have right now, but let us know in the chat, out of those three things, would any of those things make a difference for you today? The reason why I bring that up is because I think one of the big challenges that we all have, especially when we are trying to keep our database alive, and by alive, I mean active, an issue that I've come across quite well. It definitely happens probably once a month, where a client comes to me and says, why are some of my leads, why has their consent been revoked? Why can't I call them? Why can't I contact them? And the reason why that happens, it's due to inactivity, right? It's due to not having had any incoming contact from that person. For express consent, that is a 2-year period. So if they have not come back to your website or texted you or called you in over 2 years, according to anti-spam laws, their consent will be revoked. Okay, so we have to adhere to those laws. We cannot try to get around those. So it's really important to try to keep that database active. And by active, I mean keep those people coming back to your website. Try to stay in communication with them. Our topic for today is about newsletters. So newsletters to me are it's the bare minimum, right? You want to have something that you are going to use as a communication vehicle for your list at least once a month, okay? At least once a month. And the goal of that newsletter should be to get them back into your website to view the content. It's going to be much easier to do that if you've got a really strong piece of content, like a good newsletter, good email that's compelling. Bring them back to the website, because that will reset, or that'll keep their consent active. You'll continue to be able to email them and text them and call them. Okay, so when I talk about consent, it's really the ability to communicate with them through the database. Because if you have leads in there that have been in the database for, let's say, 10 years, 15 years, I wouldn't be surprised if a good chunk of those have expired. Their consent settings have expired, and we don't want that, right? We want to keep as many of those people active as possible. So that is a big part of this, and having that regular stream of content going out. So that can be in the form of a newsletter, monthly newsletter, which is what we're going to go through today. And it can also be in the form of an action plan, where we have specific messages going out every other week or once a month. And that can include email, text message, and ringless voicemail. Or maybe we need a combination, right? Property updates are also really important, making sure that people are on those, because that can also bring people back to your website and keep them active. So think about that as we go through the content today, and still waiting to see some input here in the chat, guys. Don't be shy. I do want to also point out that last week I had a special guest on my Agent Secrets webinar. That was Steve Raitt. You may know Steve. He's a founder of Success Website. So he's been developing some well, I'll say some content, but it's also a product that is designed to help you get more referral business. And that was, I would say, a pretty interesting call that we did. He shared some really valuable insight. So you can take a look at that, or you can watch it by going into successwebsite.com, checking out our blog, and it's the latest post here. So we can share that link in the chat, and you guys can take a look at that if you didn't get a chance to join us last week. And then hopefully we'll have Steve on again in the next few weeks, and he will be able to do a proper demo with us to show some of the interesting things that he's been working on. Okay, thank you guys. I can see some participation here. Michael, update website to a luxury field. Okay, yeah, like I think that updating your website every year, every couple of years, and I know that I recognize a lot of the names in today's audience, and I know that I've spoken to some of you about customizing the website, giving it a fresh face. Yes, we can absolutely do that. There's a lot of well, there's just a lot of ways to do it, right? Maybe incorporating more video, changing up the fonts, changing up the color scheme. We can definitely talk about that. So Michael, let's set up a time. We're gonna talk about that and get your input as well on what you consider to be a more luxury feel. Sometimes it's just the fonts, right? Changing the fonts can actually have a real impact on the overall look and feel of the website. Color scheme also. There's definitely a palette that lends itself very well to that luxury feel. So let's definitely do something there. And then Marina agrees that touching base beyond the initial 14 touches, yes, that is important, absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for the input. I appreciate that. Let's talk about newsletters. Okay, now you may or may not be aware, but we have a newsletter that is automatically generated for you each and every month. Sobia is the one who has been working on this and curating articles and creating these stories and this content for the Home Market Watch newsletter. So you may not be aware of this, but you have that on your website already. Okay, so if you go to your domain and you type /newsletter, you should see this, and it gets updated each and every month. And Sobi and I were just chatting briefly before the call today, coming up with some ideas on maybe different types of content that we can incorporate, or different images, how to make this content a little more compelling, interesting. So those are things that we're always looking to improve, of course, but it's nice that it's here for you. So you don't actually have to go and create anything. We actually have it for you. And if you have a French site, we do translate it to French. If you have a Spanish website, we do translate it to Spanish for you as well. So that is already there, but it also is a good idea to put your own flavor, your own spin, and think about how can you turn this newsletter into something that is helpful, valuable, relevant. Maybe it needs to contain some stats, right? Some real estate stats. So we do have an example here, who is our good friend George. I always use him as an example in all of these sessions, because he's very prolific in the stuff that he does. But he took that newsletter page and he's customized it. So he's essentially put in some content above the content that is already there. Now, one thing that I'm working on with him now is maybe formatting this a little bit better. I'll shrink it down a bit because it probably does make more, it probably looks a little bit better on a mobile device. That's another thing. Keep in mind that a lot of people are going to be looking at this on their phone. They're going to be getting an email from you, which we'll show in a second. That's going to compel them to come back to your website to view the newsletter. What I like is the video. Having that video right at the top. I think that's nice, right? I think that video is underutilized in our marketing right now. It's getting better. A lot of people are getting more into it. A lot of people are building out their YouTube channels and just feeling more comfortable in front of a camera and doing that. But still not enough, right? And I think another challenge is when you have the video, where should it go? How do I get it out there? What, like, I need to find ways to get more people to see it, right? Just having it up there on YouTube isn't really going to cut it. You got to drive traffic to it. You got to get people to see it. So having it on your newsletter, which is a page that people are going to regularly, that's a good idea. Absolutely. Now, maybe I'll take the opportunity to pick this apart a little bit. So I like the video. I do like the call to action. However, some people are going to want to watch the video. And mind you, this is what we call a short, right? So it's a vertical layout, which is great for social media, but not ideal for landing pages. But that's okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. What I would incorporate into this though is if someone doesn't want to watch the video, have some text below it that is essentially like a summary of the video, right? Because there are going to be people that get here and they're just not interested in watching that video. So just explain what the video is about so it's here for them, and then it's going to hopefully compel them more to fill out this form and submit their information. But not a bad idea to ask them to do that, right? You just have to make it very clear what they're going to get when they do that. And he did, get a free report on San Diego real estate, sure. So that's at the top, which is nice. Call to action right there. And then he's added some graphics, right? He's created these graphics that also have information, infographics, I guess you could call them. Click to text, click to call. So these are buttons that will automatically bring up either the person's text message app on their phone or their calling app to make a phone call. And that would go directly through to him. So good idea, right? Give people a really easy way to get in contact with you. And then he's got his guarantee here. Now, something that I would also suggest is when you are giving people the call to action, either click to call or click to text, I think you have to give them a reason to do that. So I would probably move this text, your home sold guaranteed or I'll buy it, to sit above those buttons, and I would pose it as a question. Are you interested in learning more about my home seller's guarantee? Click one of the buttons below to get a no obligation, to book a no obligation call to discuss, something like that, right? Probably would refine the wording a little bit more, but I think it's important to give people a reason to do that and compel them to do that. Put some value into it. He does have some links here to home evaluation, maximize your profit, convenience, flexible, and then he's got some seller incentives here. Again, call. So I feel like a lot of this could be sort of condensed into one block that is meant to really give people that value proposition to encourage them to contact him and give him a call. And then we have some other images that were created and some stats. So the stats are nice. You all get those, right? From your board, your real estate board. So incorporating the stats into the page, I think, is a nice touch. It looks like he's actually created screenshots of these stats and just plugged them in. But you could also maybe copy and paste those stats in. I guess it depends on the format. So that, I think, is helpful. Now, something like this wouldn't necessarily be evergreen, though. It's something that you'd want to change every month, depending on, well, he's showing 3 months here. And in fact, he's actually showing, oh, he's showing the difference. Okay, so February and March 2025, and he's got March 2024. Yeah. So that's pretty up to date, March. Yeah. What else do we have here? Find hidden off-market homes. That's another link. Goes to another landing page. So he's linking to different pages within the site, which is also pretty cool. You know, I have no issue with that. There's a search option, so people can search for homes. I think that's quite valuable. Incorporating HDX data into it. We actually have widgets for that as well, which would be absolutely helpful and relevant to have on here. Again, the phone number, right? Lots of ways people can get in touch with him and call him. He's got a summary. I'm sure this was all generated through ChatGPT. And then we get into the Home Market Watch newsletter. So I honestly really appreciate, you know, the effort that George is putting into this, trying to turn this into a really compelling piece of content, right? That he can just share with his audience each and every month. Some things that he could add to it, which are very much in line with some of the things that we discussed with Steve last week. One would be maybe a local pro spotlight. And that would be maybe a home stager or a contractor or perhaps a mortgage broker, a local business that you think deserves to be highlighted or to get a spotlight from you. And that really falls in line with promoting other businesses as a way to share your network and get referrals for that other business, but also try to establish a good relationship with that business where they could send you referrals as well. So that could be part of your value proposition to your power partners, is to say, I produce this newsletter every month and I want to incorporate you into that newsletter. If you go back into, I know that it was quite a few months back, but we did another interview with George Moorhead, and he does a really good job of this with adding other businesses and vendors to his content, to his newsletter. I believe he mails that out to his community every month, and that's working exceptionally well for him in terms of getting more people to contact him and refer people to him. So having that local pro spotlight, I think, is a good idea. Also, having that referral spotlight. So thanking people who have done something good in the community or highlighting a story where you helped somebody. There's a there's a story that kind of comes to mind where let's say somebody does send you a referral, okay? Why not spotlight them? Why not say huge thanks to, let's say, David R. for referring his sister to me last month. This month's referral gift, have a surprise gift that you are proposing to send to somebody who sends you a referral. Okay, so here's a blurb, and this is something that was provided through ChatGPT, but it says, "This month's referral gift: send someone my way, and I'll send you a surprise gift from a local coffee shop or restaurant as a thank you. Every referral means the world." So having that as a spotlight, I think, will certainly put that idea into people's heads, that that you really appreciate those referrals, you take great care of those people, and you love to send surprise gifts. Client stories, right? A testimonial, or perhaps a really favorable review. Those are things also that are great to incorporate into your monthly newsletter. So is this something that you'd be interested in? Is this something that you could use some help with? We're here for you. We want to help you with this and try to get a piece of content that isn't going to require a ton of your time every month. There'll be a few core elements that remain consistent. Sobia will be creating the bulk of it every month. The only thing that we'll need to update is perhaps the stats, and then maybe a success story or two. But let us know in the chat, or you can let me know in the survey, or you can just get in contact with us, right? You guys all know how to get in touch with us. So if this is something that you feel you could use help with, I think that that would benefit. Well, I think it would definitely benefit you. It would benefit your audience. It would benefit our team, because we'd be creating new things and developing new things. So let's do it, okay? All right. So enough about the newsletter itself. Let me get into also how to make sure people are receiving the newsletter, because I think that's pretty important. So once you have your newsletter created, you're going to want to make sure that as many people as possible are getting it. There's a few ways to do that. Let me just expand my screen here. So in our Engage CRM, we have a few ways to send emails. You could obviously email somebody as a one-off, right? You can connect your email to the system and send somebody a one-off email, but that's not very efficient, especially with sharing a newsletter. What I would also recommend is when a new lead comes in, you should be essentially trying to contact them any means possible within that first 14 days. It is extremely important to seize that opportunity within that first 14-day period. There's a reason why we stress the importance of doing that, because if it gets past that 14-day period, the chances of contacting them, the likelihood of getting through to them, is diminished greatly. But I do also think it's important to first establish that you've got yourself a real lead, right? So let me just get into my test lead here, and I'm going to put this on impersonate, so I'm not sharing any. No, I can't even do that. Okay, that's fine. So if we were to decide this lead is a good lead, we've got an active email, why not put them on our newsletter? Okay, so e-plan. Oh, I guess you need to have an email address. Oh, it couldn't be delivered. Interesting. Okay, so anyhow, this is a test account, so it's not, some of the information is a little bit wonky, but essentially you're going to want to put them onto an e-plan for the newsletter. Let me see if I can find another example here. Fred Smith. Does Fred have an email? No. This person has an email. Yeah, and they're on some follow-up plans. Okay. Now, I did mention the consent stuff at the beginning of the call here. This is what I'm talking about when I mentioned consent status. If you're looking at my screen, you see these two icons. One is the email, one is the phone. Both have green check marks. That means your consent is all good. Now, if this lead does not return to the website, okay, so we've been sending stuff out and nothing's coming back. So this person has not responded. If they do not respond, if they do not come back, they do not respond to any of our marketing within a 2-year period, their consent will expire, okay? So that's why it's important to be aware of that, because a lot of people will, they may hire somebody to help them with making calls and things like that, and they want that person to have access to all the leads in the database. Unfortunately, if some of those leads have not come back to the website and they have not renewed their consent, that will have expired, and these will show little red X's, okay? So there's express consent, where they've agreed to both email and phone, and that lasts for 2 years. And then there's implied consent, and that only lasts for 6 months. By the way, quickly, I'm going to show you when you add a lead to the database, okay? Let's say you've got a new newsletter, you want to start adding some leads so they get it. That's fine, that's great. You can add them, but make sure when you do, you check off these boxes. All 3 need to be checked off. If you don't, you're going to be entering the lead without the consent status. So those all have to be checked off, and you're vouching for them, right? You're basically saying, I confirm this lead has provided express consent. All right, so let's just go back here. I'll take a look at this James lead. So we can see that they've been getting stuff. Now, the property updates, yes, that's one thing that I think is helpful in terms of getting people back. But under the e-plan settings here, you'll notice that we have a series of e-plans. Now, if you're a Craig Proctor coaching member, then you do have access to extra content in the form of an email plan. And that's what this is: CP follow-up buyer, CP follow-up seller. If not, then you have a buyer and seller plan. You can also add to these e-plans, but the e-plans are a drip campaign that go on for a finite period of time. So they go on for, let's say, 6 weeks, and then they're done. Now the newsletter, and you can only have one of these active, by the way. You can't check off each and every one. Only one of these e-plans can be active at any given time. Now the newsletter is a separate type of e-plan where it's going to go out once a month for as long as that lead has consent. So let's say if you've been sending out this newsletter for 2 years to somebody and they've never once clicked on it and come back to the website, their consent will expire, okay? Because they have not clicked, they have not come back. And some people will fall into that, okay? There's nothing you can do about that, but a lot will click and they will come back and they will essentially renew their consent the moment they do that. So all you have to do is just switch this on, and this email will go out from the system each and every month for you. You don't have to do anything. Similar to the property updates, okay? So that is under the e-plan settings here, and then you just check off that box. And you can even go into e-plan actions and see when it was sent out. So a good idea is to actually put yourself into the system. If you haven't done this before, I know that many of you have, but if you haven't, go into the database, add yourself, and then turn some of these things on so you can see exactly what is being sent out. Now, as far as deliverability is concerned, full disclosure, we do use a third party for sending our email. We use SendGrid. It's pretty well-known sender of bulk email. And we really do our best to make sure that we're in the good books and our emails get delivered. So this is part of, this also falls into the consent topic, because the more people unsubscribing to emails, the more bad emails receiving this information, that can cause problems with overall deliverability. So there's definitely an argument for trying to keep your audience, your list, as active as possible, right? To avoid too much stuff going into spam. But having said that, sometimes it's just completely beyond our control. You know, there's definitely going to be some people who receive that newsletter and it will either be in their promotions folder if they're using Gmail, or it will go to spam, right? There's, as I said, we do our best to try to make sure that that doesn't happen, but it's beyond our control in some cases. Anyhow, put yourself on it. Make sure you check all all of your folders, right, to make sure you got the content. Or if you're using another email sender, like I know that many of you have, maybe you're using Constant Contact, maybe you're using MailChimp, maybe you're using, I don't know, MailerLite or one of those email sending things. Maybe you've got a free system that is included with your brokerage for sending out mass email. You can use that, right? You could basically download your list of leads and send it out that way if you want. But this is definitely, I would say, an easy thing to do, and you absolutely should be doing that as well. And just to show you where to find that follow-up e-plan, it's right here under the Engage CRM dropdown under Tools, and you can see what that email looks like. So let me just edit this. So what we've done is we've just put in a short message, the newsletter link, and your signature. So this link, right, goes right to the newsletter, and that's what we want. We want people to come back, because when they come back, their consent settings are updated. And they're coming back to view your content, so that's all good. You could also have a much fancier version of that email. I know a lot of people like to have some graphics and things like that. You can do that as well. Just be aware that sometimes those graphics may not actually show or be displayed in the email the way that you plan them to be, depending on the type of email that you're sending to, whether it be Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo or whatever it is, right? They all sort of treat images differently when they are received. Okay, so hopefully this has given you some good information. One last thing I'm going to show is under the segments here, okay? When you go to communication status, this is where you can look up who in your list has consent or does not have consent. So that is something that you may want to check out, especially if you're planning on exporting a list of leads to send information to en masse using a third party, using another system. I would only download the leads that actually have consent. I would definitely not include the ones that don't. So that is a handy filter as well. And we're going to be looking at ways to help you out a little bit more in terms of identifying those leads that are due to expire in the next couple months, so that you can do your best to try to get them back to your website to renew their consent status. But it's just another reason why you should be actively in your database, trying to keep your database active. That is the key. Okay, so I hope you guys found this helpful. I do see a quick question here from Carol. If I customize my newsletter, would I still be using the newsletter link? Okay, it's a great question. To be honest, when in doubt, just put in the URL yourself, right? So if you've got a newsletter page, let's say, similar to what I was showing here. I would, just in case, right, just to be sure, I would update this replacement pattern. I would put in the link so that I absolutely am sure that they're going to go to the right page. And we can help you with that, Carol. Really good question. I mean, I think 99% of the time, these replacement patterns are fine. But if you did go and create your own custom page, or let's say you want to drive traffic to the blog or somewhere else, then that replacement pattern may not necessarily work the way that you want it to. By the way, if you guys want more information on the replacement patterns, you could look it up in the help, but you could also go to settings here into replacement patterns, and that's where they all are, right? So we often use this just for contact information, right? If you wanted to update your brokerage or your phone number or your address or whatever, this is a good place to do that. And then sometimes we'll go ahead and add new replacement patterns, right? You could add a custom one here, but to be honest, not many people bother with that. Sometimes it's easier just to go in and make sure that the content that you're sending out is not totally dependent on replacement patterns, especially if it's not dynamic. Replacement patterns are great for dynamic content, but if it's static, if it's like a static page, then maybe just use the link to the page. Okay, hope that makes sense. Really great question though. So I'm going to give you guys successwebcare.com, and your call to action today is to book a call with us, okay? You can go ahead and do that by clicking this little button right here, set a call back. That'll bring up our Calendly link. We can go in and just book an appointment. That'll get you on the calendar. Pick a time that works best for you. And then, or, looks like it's loading. Okay. Earliest one that we have is we got lots of appointments available tomorrow. Perfect. Another way to get a hold of us would be through text message. Okay, so text us at 657-227-0070. We do send out a few text messages every week to let you know about these webinars. So hopefully you're okay with that. If you're not, then it may be hard for you to text us at that number. So that could be a problem, because I know that some people have actually hit stop and whatnot when we've tried to communicate through that channel, which also makes it very hard for us to call you or text you when we need to get in contact with you. So just be aware of that, but get in touch with us. You know, we'd like to help you with whatever it is you need help with. And I'm sure you could all use a little help with something. So hopefully that has given you some good inspiration. We did go a little bit over time, but that's okay. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Next Thursday, we will be back onto our Agent Secrets schedule. We'll have some longer content for you, more for you to learn, more to do, and hopefully more success. All right, have a great day, everybody.